I want to tell you guys about a really sneaky sleeper team in the SEC that nobody is talking about this year. Kentucky has the potential to be one of those teams that, like Missouri last year, nobody expected them to be any more than a 6-7 win team at best. And then late come around November, you potentially are looking at them as a surprising entrance into the 12-team college football playoffs. Kentucky this season, how far they go is going to be determined by how well their transfer quarterback Brock Vandagriff plays. Now, Brock Vandagriff, this dude was a backup for Georgia the past couple of seasons, but he ain't no slouch. He was really talented. He was the 5th best quarterback coming out of the 2021 recruiting cycle. That was up there with Quinn Ewers, Caleb Williams. You also have somebody who was the 5th best quarterback coming out of this past year's transfer portal cycle. And the thing that has held back Kentucky is that they haven't had a quarterback that's been consistent at throwing the football through the air. Last year, you thought you were going to get efficient QB play out of Devin Leary, but he was a major disappointment. With how good Kentucky's going to be up front, they're going to have a good offensive line. They're going to have a good defensive line. Plus, you got really good wide receivers, Dane Key, Barrion Brown. That's one of the better wide receiving cores in the SEC walking into this season. But nobody talks about how good they are because they haven't had the ability to showcase their abilities with a good quarterback. Well, you're getting that this season, potentially in Brock Vandagriff, and he ends up playing up to his full potential. And what is Brock Vandagriff's full potential? Well, it's really scary, but he has the ceiling of a potential Heisman finalist. Could he win the Heisman? I don't think so, but he can definitely put up good enough numbers at UK where he could find himself in the conversation. This is the most hype that I've ever had for a University of Kentucky quarterback walking into any season just because of the raw talent that he has, from his arm strength to him having a good amount of athleticism. But if he ends up panning out, you mean to tell me that Kentucky can't be a 9-win team? They always say that if you want to be able to compete in the SEC, you gotta have the athletes up front. Kentucky has that. This is the most talented offensive line that they've had in recent memory, and their defensive line has some of the more highly recruited guys that they've had in program history. Your secondary has a lot of athleticism in the back end as well, even though you're replacing a lot of experience there. Kentucky, even though their schedule is really tough, I could see them going on the road and maybe pulling off an upset against Tennessee or Texas just because of the talent level that they have around Brock Vandagriff. They got receivers. They're good up front. All you need is for Brock Vandagriff to play up to his potential, which I definitely think is possible. He looked really impressive in the spring game. He has a good supporting cast. Your new offensive coordinator who comes from Boise State should run an offense that should produce more out of the passing game for what you got out of your previous OC and Liam Cohen. Look out for Kentucky this year. They have scary potential. If Brock Vandagriff ends up going off this year, they could easily be a 9-win team or better because their defense is going to be really good and they're going to have an offense that can score some points. Mark Stoops is one of the more underappreciated coaches in America, and he doesn't have the same access to resources that you would see out of a elite tier program. So the transfer portal has been a great benefit to Kentucky. And if they can get Brock Vandagriff right, because they've had the tendency of finding their QB1s from the portal. Will Levis was a pretty good hit. Devin Leary was a miss. But if Brock Vandagriff can end up being a giant home run for them, their upside is incredibly scary. And 9 wins, maybe 10, you could see them playing in the SEC championship. Or at worst, maybe they have a bid into the college football playoffs as a 12th or 11th seed. Kentucky's a very scary team if Brock Vandagriff ends up living up to his level of expectations that he had coming out of high school and out of the portal.